So I've been doing some theory crafting in preparation for the next build, which will be a void character. Now, this is a interaction that I explored last league, but I'll be using it again this league, and it is the shield Kongming's stratagem. Now, what this shield does is it reduces spell damage from blinded enemies, meaning if you blind an enemy, you take an extra level of damage reduction. Now, the best part is you can combine this on a Trickster with Hidden Flame, Born Shadows, and you get to blind everything. Now, this character isn't finished yet. We're still testing. We are still testing. However, as you can see, I am pretty damn tanky. Now, it's worth noting that I don't think this character is immortal. I do not think so. There's one thing it does definitely die to, which is Embezzler. So, Embezzler is a modifier founded on ghosted monsters that makes it so you have no recovery at all. And because Trickster relies on recovery rates, it's actually very, very, very dangerous. So, you should always be careful. Now, as you can see, what happens is I'm actually trying to use cast when stunned on CI. Now, this is enabled by this ring here. So this league, we've got a new mechanic, which is mists that reflect rings, okay? So on this ring here, there's a certain stat that basically helps you get cast when stunned off. That is minus 220 life. So if you weren't aware, CI actually only counts as your stun for CI, only counts your life before CI, right? So if I unspec CI right here, then my max life should be around 800, and that is the actual stun threshold. Now you still get 50% chance to avoid stuns, but our damage isn't from, DD or anything. So that's not part of it, not a big issue. Just having spells being shit out everywhere, especially the Stormbrand here, it'll make sure that everything here is blinded. You can see Zeri's blinded, everybody's blinded, right? So I can confidently go into a map and know that everything will more likely be blinded. So we watch Zeri, this perma-blind, right? What did I fall off? I couldn't tell. Too many effects. Either way, that's the second interaction. Now the third interaction that I have here is I'm testing things, right? So testing, and I actually think the crit reduction is very important. So one thing that is often overlooked is the fact that when you use Cannibal Poison on the Poison Mastery on a 2-minute map, I believe the bosses aren't actually poisoned, even though you poison them, because the damage is 0, so they don't count as being poisoned. Apparently, I'm not really sure myself, but yeah, that's something to be aware of. And basically, we are abusing Trickster because Trickster is just broken. Obviously, we have our chest armor here. Basically, Necrotic armor makes it so Trickster gets so much energy shield for free, right? For free. A few more niche mechanics I should go over is on the Warlock boots, you can actually fracture this modifier here. This is a essence modifier where if you're stationary, you take reduced elemental damage. So that's another layer reduction. And for the helmets, this league, you can recombinate a underground drop only modifier onto a Lich helmet and keep it there, right? You can keep it here. And nothing else very special, to be honest. Nothing else really special. But yeah, that's the main, idea right now. I have seen people use Purifier, and I actually don't use it. I use a double purity with Arctic Armor and Discipline. So why Discipline? Well, besides giving you ES, it also gives you access to the Watcher's Eye, gain 30% ES, 30 ES per enemy hit which allows you to get instant recovery, and this helps you a lot against damage. So if I take this out, it should be fairly noticeable. Right, you start taking damage, right? Yeah, you can see it's not as clean, but if you put it in, you basically topped up the entire time. So by having all these cast when stuns proc off and trigger off hundreds of hits, you can get thousands of ES gained per second instantaneously. So I'll take it off, right? And depending on how harsh the buffs are going, you can see that, you know, you take damage, right? I'm almost dying. And you put it in, and straight to the top, right? So this is why I really like sources of instant recovery. In addition, I have Purity Lightning here to basically take fire and cold as lightning. So I can basically, the way penetration works is fire pen can only pen fire resistance. But if you take the damage of fire as something else, it can't pen that portion. Meaning, this jewel technically gives me 2% extra fire res against fire pen spells, such as Azuri, 10% pen. So that's a very strong mechanic there. But obviously, the main benefits here is just a double suppression. So by double suppressing everything, you take a huge amount of less damage, and I mean, you can see, right? You can see it's just super tanky. Now, I didn't spec carefully here, but because we're still testing. Because look, I was supposed to do is still anointed, right? Still not. I was just testing, but my damage is actually not too bad. So the damage comes from the wrong mastery, of course. The damage comes from Ephemeral Edge. Obviously, well known by now. Tricksters with ES gains massive amounts of Flat Lightning, which we can now convert into Poison with Original Sin. And while most people use RT, I actually use Fortify here. Take Accuracy here for Intelligence, and take oh, I forgot to take oh, don't worry about that. I forgot I took it out. And take Elite Overload for bonus damage for Elmas. No wonder my damage was so bad earlier. Anyway, obviously my DPS is not that great. I just turned off my... What? Why do that? Okay, so as you can see, start doing damage. The ramp time is a bit slow, but honestly, as long as you can do damage, that's all that matters, right? As long as they die, that's all that matters. So DPS is obviously pretty slow, right? DPS is pretty slow against pinnacle bosses, but as you can see, Azuri, here we go. Again, if you look at the bottom, we have a Tincture. The Tincture gives you bonus attack speed, which I kind of like. And we're using Molten Strike here, as you can see, to gain lots of hits, to get lots of recovery. So Molten Strike with a Poison Tincture, just for the sake of it, right? Is it on? Oops, there we go. And Focus Gloves, which are honestly leftover gloves, to be honest, because I screwed up the craft. My crafted gear is not that great. I have, you know, crafted suppress when I could just tattoo it, because I'm trying to save money, trying to be very conservative here while we test and go through things. And Azuri always is the most annoying. Now, I have done this on Delirium maps, but you have to be very careful, okay, very careful, that you don't get too many stacks of recovery rates. Now, every time Azuri is the most annoying because she walks around everywhere. Just stand still, please. Just stand still, please. And obviously, as you can tell, or I couldn't get into it, but you can end up taking damage while moving. So I wouldn't rely on Arctic Armor specifically. I was using Flesh and Stone, but unfortunately that wasn't very good either. So it is what it is, right? So this is the work in progress for my Void Trickster. I don't know what to call it. Probably Kongming's Trickster, I guess, because this combination of Kongming's Born in the Shadows and Cast when Stunned, just shitting out spells everywhere, basically makes it very, 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 very consistent / guaranteed source of basically damage reduction. So on a calculator, if we go times 0.7 times 0.85, we are taking 0.59 damage. So we are basically doing double suppression. So we're taking 40% less damage with Kongmings and Born in the Shadows. And I hope this will be an interesting video for mechanics. And if I die, you'll see my name. Okay, you'll see my name if I die. It is currently called Unavoidable. It's there's a bit of a pun because there's a double meaning there, right? Can't go to the void, or it's inevitable that I'll go to the void. I think this character will eventually die. This character will eventually die, in my opinion, because there are some situations where you just can't survive. And I think compared to my Pathfinder, it is much squishier. I think the Pathfinder, like playing the Pathfinder, I felt and I know that I was immortal. Like I know on Pathfinder, I could just never die. But playing Trickster, where you rely on recovery rates, there's a feeling that I could die. You know, it's a real chance at times. Alright, and thank you very much. Bye bye.